stream. I hope everybody is looking forward to what is going to be an excellent weekend. I have no doubt. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining throughout the week. And if I didn't mention it already to you, I hope that everybody does something kind for themselves and somebody else, or did something kind for themselves and somebody else, as yesterday was World Kindness Day 2025. I actually posted some stuff on social media basically talking about ways that people can be kind to their Masonic brethren, to their community, to themselves, and to their families. And basically, the privileged position we are all in to be able to be kind, but especially the privileged position we as Freemasons are in to be able to be kind. And I also talked about why kindness is a very important thing for Freemasons. So, in terms of the more kind we are as Freemasons, it reflects on our ability to, it reflects upon the craft. So, if we are being kind to the world, kind to those around us, and people know that we're Freemasons, it reflects well on the craft. That is why a lot of Freemasons, I think, have this tendency to be very modest, which is certainly an admirable trait. However, I think, unfortunately, it is also the case that if you are trying to be modest all the time and not sharing your good deeds, at least in a Masonic context, then that kind of causes the craft to suffer a little bit. Angus McNeil, hello. How's it going? Thank you for joining. I hope you're having a great weekend. Please hit like and subscribe. Well, then pass out, Smokey. I did see your post on YouTube. I left a comment. I hope that the recovery is going well. Hopefully, if nothing else, those postcards I sent give you something fun to look at while you're rocking out the meds. Good. Masonic Roundtable is great. My day is going very well also. My Friday is going very well. I'm glad you had a good night last night. As you know, or good fellowship, when it comes to these Friday streams, I don't really have any specific topics. It's more just I hang out and wait to see who joins and what they want to talk about. This is kind of like Friday Fun Day. Kind of like Sunday Fun Day. This weekend, I will be sending out some mailers, some special event things. So please make sure you're signed up for my mailing list. Make sure you're checking me out on Medium, etc., etc. Right, just make sure you're following me because I've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But Smokey, I'm glad you're here, and it seems to me that this must indicate that the medical procedure, the surgery, must have went pretty well, I'm going to assume. Or going to hope anyways. At least as well as it can. I know that these things can be. I mean, I don't think even when a surgery goes well, I mean, it's still super challenging on the body, right? And super challenging on recovery and stuff. I think even at the best of times, there's challenges involved. But it's still good to do it. So, still good to get it done. It's still good to listen to your doctor, as I'm always saying. Here goes Mr. Mason, indeed, Infamous. Welcome, Infamous. How's it going? Pro Rainbow, welcome back. Thank you for being here as well. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Anybody got any plans for the weekend? Please let me know. And if there's anything you guys do want to talk about, same thing, please let me know. This is just me hanging out, waiting to see who joins. I miss everybody. So I'm not sure why you call me Fruit Cup, but nonetheless, I miss everybody. An ad. I am doing well. I am from, well, I was born in Winnipeg, but live in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I'm here to talk about Freemasonry. So, Anad, do you have any thoughts on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. And thank you for being here. I'm still a Freemason, yes. I am still a Freemason, so I'm sure someone would like to get me out of Freemasonry, but nonetheless. I have no idea what that is, A.A, but please hit the like and subscribe button. Canada, oh Canada, says Akash. Yes, greatest country in the world. I love Canada. I'm grateful to be a Canadian. I've always said, and I still say, right, Canada is the greatest country in the world, partially because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. I love the States, but I love Canada a little bit more. I cannot do that, Akash. I'm sorry to say. I cannot give anybody permanent residence. There's a process. Got to get a lawyer. Greatest country in the world. Mr. Mason, indeed. I'm sorry your visa's expired. Hopefully you can get it renewed or do what you need to do to get it updated. Right, because I know it can be a challenging process. Hello from Germany. Hello, and Nico and Kino. I think you've been on the stream before. If not, welcome back. Please hit like and subscribe. We're just hanging out and chatting, so let me know how it's going and anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. I mean, I wish I could help you. Unfortunately, I don't know any. First, I don't know where you're from. I mean, I know a few jobs around Windsor, I think, but I don't know where you're from, and Canada's a big country. All good. Because I'm very handsome. So what is being a, well, right now being a Mason is what's got me streaming on YouTube. So there's that. Otherwise, I would have nothing to stream and talk about. I do not know what the spaceship is to which you're referring. Sorry, I can't help you with that. Freemasons, despite the conspiracy theories, we do not have a spaceship hidden anywhere. I can guarantee you that. So just so you know, and so you're not thinking otherwise. So Arnaud, are you from Pakistan? Please, again, hit that like and subscribe button. We are hanging out. It's the evening, or sorry, it's the afternoon here, probably the evening over in Pakistan, just chatting about Freemasonry. So any thoughts you have on Freemasonry? Again, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. If you don't have a spaceship, how do y'all travel? That's a good question. I mean, maybe we do have a spaceship, and I'm just lying. Tell me something about Scottish Rite. Well, I can tell you I'm an 18th degree Scottish Rite. It's newer than York. Scottish Rite was founded in 1800 or 1801. I forget which date. I think it was 1801. It's a appendant body or a rite within Freemasonry. Normally, you do your first 3 degrees, and then you join Scottish Rite in the 4th degree. There is a Scottish Rite order that has the first 3 degrees. It has the most membership worldwide, to my knowledge, of the 3 Masonic appendant bodies, or the 3 main ones. It has a greater membership than York Rite, as well as a greater membership than Shrine. So I hope that makes sense. It is grand work. It is a lot of work. Diana, no, but you can hit the like and subscribe button. I've been a Freemason for 20 years, so Tunnel Vision Racing, welcome. Thanks for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. Michael Moore, afternoon to you. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. How is it going for you over in the States? Just across the river from me. I hope it's going well. I hope things at the Detroit Temple are going well. I've got my passport in the mail. I just got my passport renewed. If I was broke, infamous, how could I get my passport renewed? So I got my passport renewed. It's in the mail. So hopefully I'll be able to return to the States shortly. I haven't been to the States in about, well, I guess the last time would have been maybe for the wedding. Um, I think actually. Well, you can help me not be broke, infamous, by hitting the like, subscribe, and giving a 99-cent super chat. It's more than 90 bucks. You're getting older, brother. Are you getting a little younger? Um, well, you are getting younger. You must be. I'm getting older every day. What can I say? I try not to. I'm not a fan of getting older. I've always argued I don't want to get older, but it keeps happening. I guess, though, in fairness, it's better than the alternative. Hunting season starts tomorrow, so that's construction worker holiday here. I've never gone hunting. Shot a gun a couple times. A friend of mine at his bachelor party, he, I was the best man. I had to organize it, and he was big into guns. So we went to a shooting range first, and then from there had some more bachelor party type fun. Um, Hi, Cameron. I've just been in touch. Wow, New Zealand. So that's an old time friend of yours. Because what? That would have been 73. So that must be really fun. It's always fun to get in touch with old friends that you haven't seen in a while. Um, well, at least now I know you got your postcard. I may have to just send you the money by post because for whatever reason, maybe it's just a bank you have doesn't recognize CIBC. I don't know. And brother Courtney, I do hope once again everybody is having a great night. When is your next, or great day, I should say, brother Courtney? When is your next meeting? When are you going to be? When's your next lodge meeting? And Winnipeg must be excited because Dad from Winnipeg in 2 days he got the Grey Cup. I know you would have been more excited if Winnipeg had made it into the Grey Cup. So it sucks that they don't get to play in the hometown. But Montreal versus Saskatchewan, I think we can guess who people are going to be cheering for. Montreal. I don't see Saskatchewan getting a lot of fans there unless they travel from Saskatchewan to Winnipeg, which is very possible. Nice. Good to see. I thought he was 77. Good to see the fellow crafts. Or sorry, good to see the senior Demolays putting in some work. Great to see how well Demolay is doing. I hope it continues to grow. I think our youth groups are an incredibly important part of the Masonic family. Um, Well, if you just passed out, then don't be here, Brother Courtney. Go to sleep. If you're sick, recover. Well, Cody, I mean, good for you, I guess. Whatever, as long as you're happy living the life you're living, that's what matters. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm here to talk about Freemasonry. Having said that, Cody, please hit like, please hit subscribe, um, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Are you saying, I don't know what the leftovers refers to, they're infamous, although I will say, you know, one thing is I always know I'll have food at some point because I can always go to a Masonic Lodge meeting and have the food, that they're serving for refreshments and then take some leftovers home with me. So that's quite enjoyable. Um, well, okay, Cody, sounds good to me. I do not know a ton about Satanism. But I mean, I'd like to think in general we should um, treat everyone with respect and kindness as a general rule, I suppose, and not prejudge anyone. I do not know who the reform is, but okay, do that. And Ash, please hit like and subscribe. Um, you are from the UK. What part of the UK are you from, Ash? Out of curiosity, because I'm going to be in the United Kingdom in about 2 weeks. Less than that, actually, a week and a bit. I'm going to be going to London, then Newcastle, then Scotland, Edinburgh, for the Arcana Veritas Distinction Awards. I am honored to be a finalist for those awards. I wrote a paper a little while ago. It was selected as a finalist. So I might be coming back home with the trophy. Um, who knows? Even if I don't, there's a lot of really incredible there's a lot of really incredible papers and books up for nomination, up for the finalist, or sorry, that are finalists up for the award. So even if I don't win, a very deserving paper will, in fact, win. Hmm. Okay, I see what you're saying. That happens, and I mean, the danger too of being sick is you don't want to be sick and then pass on your illness to others. My pops is from the north of England, Ash. Actually, I'm going to be staying in Newcastle, or a little bit next to Newcastle. I'm going to be, like I said, I will be in. I'll fly into Heathrow, and then I'm going to check out Mason's Hall if I can, UGLE. Then I'm going to take a bus to Newcastle, stay with some cousins, and then travel up to Edinburgh on the 26th. But my pops is from Haltwhistle, which is a little town in Northumberland, very close to Hadrian's Wall. So it'll be nice to be back and see the family that I haven't seen for years. I think the last time I saw my cousin, it was at his wedding, and that was probably almost 20 years ago now. Time flies. Crazy to think how much time flies. I'm from Yorkshire. Okay, so if you had to, um, yes, get some sleep, Smokey. If you had to select one thing, Ash, for me to check out outside of Edinburgh, what would it be? Um, well, one of my favorite TV shows, The Good Witch on Hallmark, the main character, her favorite number, her lucky number is 13. So I guess what that says is maybe 13 isn't so unlucky after all. Um, maybe, I don't actually know why 13. Well, part of it is Friday the 13th. That was the day that the King of France ordered the destruction of the Knights Templar. So there is that. Um, so I'm not going to be streaming during my travels. So from the 23rd to the 28th, I'm not going to be streaming. I will be posting on my personal account. And then, so my personal Facebook page and Twitter and stuff, I'll be posting pictures and comments and trying to, show off that way. And most people do follow me on my personal accounts as well, including my personal YouTube account, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. But when I get back, I'll have a lot of streams all about how much fun I had and everything like that. So not quite 19, Nigerian, not quite 19, a bit older than that. Eagle King, welcome. Thank you for being here. Well, you can declare war on the Masons if you want, but the Masons won't declare war on you. We get along with everybody. Think of us as vegetarians because we don't want no beef with nobody. I think no, I'm if I might be taking the train. I think there was a bus I'm taking actually, if I recall it correctly. But I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. I'm sure the entire trip's going to be beautiful. England's a beautiful country. Um, Matt is alive, has arrived, digging into dive, striving to survive, feeling the vibe, drive to thrive, high fived, subscribed, and liked the live. Matt is back in the chat. How about that? That is awesome, Matt. And everybody should be more like Matt. You should hit that like and subscribe button. Listen to Matt. He knows what he's talking about. He's a smart dude. Um, we get along. I know many Catholic Freemasons. We get along with Catholics fine. The Catholic Church may have some issues with Freemasons, but that's not the same as Freemasons having issues. So just keep that in mind. I like, I mean, I don't live in United Kingdom. I try to pay attention to it. I think United Kingdom looks like a great country. Actually, I'm eligible to get my United Kingdom citizenship. Um, so I kind of really want to apply for that. Um, I can apply for citizenship if I have a British parent. Just coming about, well, I mean, I could, but I feel like there's a probably a easier, less. I feel like there's a much easier, much less dangerous, much less frightening way to do it than to come across on a boat. Um, It doesn't seem easiest, Matt, or the Patriot. It seems actually it'd be quite. I'd be quite scared to cross, the English Channel on a boat. It looks to me like a lot of those boats are actually quite terrifying, and not the most well maintained or well captained. Um, I don't need a free hotel. I got my family there. Um, so I would be quite nervous about, like I said, about trying to cross over in a boat. I don't know if things like for money hotels and free food is worth it if I'm risking my life to get there. That's for sure. Or I could swim to France, as Doggy McNaughty suggests. Um, just use your Mason witchcraft and float across. I should. Um, Rondo Cameron's. I am, like I said, planning on potentially applying for my British citizenship. I should have done it years ago, actually. Um, it seems like I'm eligible if my dad is a Brit. So, like I said, what I should do is I should become a British citizen. I should go to England. I should find a British lady, marry her, and move to England just to balance it out, right? They steal one of ours, so we'll steal one of theirs, type of thing. But I am going back to the old country, and I cannot wait. I have got British heritage. I mean, my dad's British, right? So one generation. It actually looks not too hard to apply for. Um, Once again, Nigerian Nightmare. That stuff always sounds kind of a little bit tinged. I'm not saying you're a cruel person, but that always seems a little bit tinged with cruelty to me. This idea of, oh, it's so easy to just, uh, uh, be illegal and swim across or take a boat across and tell me refugee. I mean, I don't know what it's like to leave your homeland to try to find a better life somewhere else. I was blessed to be born in a country where I've never had to make those kind of decisions. And I'm grateful for that. Had I been born in one of these countries that's going through these challenges, I don't necessarily know what I would do. Um, Welcome, Grind. I'm a Freemason as well. This channel talks all about Freemasonry, so let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Um, I'll support your application for that. Well, I think you may have to. Um, I think you may have to, because I think I don't know what I'll need. I'm just looking up the application right now. Um, it looks like to do so out in Canada, I have to go to, um, I'd have to go to Toronto, it looks like. I wish there's one in Windsor. You'd think there would be. So, Grind, where are you a Freemason? Where are you from? Though it's 100, it's not cheap, that's for sure. I don't, it actually looks like it's not too hard to do. Um, I need to provide application documents. Thank you, Ash. I very much appreciate that. Brian, let me know, like I said, where are you a Freemason from? And I might be missing some. Oh, here it is. Our ancestors created Western civilization, so we're born into it. I mean, yeah, but I didn't do anything, right? Like, saying that, I think it's trying to make us feel better. Like, I didn't do anything. I was just born lucky. I was born on third base, basically, right? And I do consider myself incredibly lucky to be born where I was born, first of all, to be born in Canada, greatest country in the world, and to be born when I was born in 1983. Because, as much as I romanticize history and love history, I'm very happy to be able to do things like YouTube. And if I was born even 100 years earlier, I would not be here, not be talking to friends like Colonizer 420, for example. Having said, so, this idea of um, our ancestors created Western civilization, so we're born into it. I mean, that to me, I mean, like I'm grateful for that, but I also have to recognize I didn't do anything. I just lucked out. I just became incredibly lucky. Michael H. Well, that's what Freemasonry does. It ages me. Maybe that, or that's what YouTube does. It ages you. Um, well, I don't know what they worked for exactly. I would hope that what they worked for is to create a country that is welcoming and kind and a beacon of liberal values. When I say liberal, I don't mean like small L liberal, not liberal party, but liberal like Enlightenment era. At least that's what I'm fighting for, and I would hope future generations will defend that as opposed to being closed or um, kind of trying to hold on desperately to what we have at the expense of the health and happiness of others. Um, you, Colonizer, you are from everywhere. I'm still not sure if you even actually really exist because so far you've told me you're from 6 different countries. I mean, I've heard a little bit about Nigeria. I don't know a lot about what's happening there, but if anybody is in danger there, Christians or otherwise, I very much hope that they are safe. Absolutely. Um, that's true, Dad. That's very true. Do you know anything about the GLDF? You just said you're from Nigeria. I do not know what GLDF is. When I see that, my first thought is Grand Lodge, but I don't know what DF, Grand Lodge, Florida? Um, Sorry, I'm not sure. Okay, Grand Lodge de France. A little bit. I mean, there's because there's the Grand Orient of France. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, or the Grand Lodge of France. There's a couple different Masonic Grand Lodges in France, right? There's the Grand Orient, um, which I forget now. I don't believe it is recognized in Ontario, if I recall correctly. Um, I could be I could be mistaken. Um, I have to double check that. I have the list back at my. Yeah, well, there's a couple different Masonic groups in France, right? Um, it's if I recall correctly, Grand Lodge de France. It's Scottish Rite, including the first 3 degrees. It's Scottish Rite. Yeah, if I recall correctly. So I think actually, sorry, I think I got it mixed up. The Grand Orient de France, I believe that is recognized by Freemasonry in Ontario. I don't think I got to figure out which is which. I forget the recognition now in France. I should know this, especially as a worshipful master. But I forget the recognition and which body is recognized by Ontario. I'll have to double check that. So, like I said, I know very little about Grand Lodge de France. I believe it is. Um, I believe it is. Um, Scottish Rite in its ritual. I'm just checking here. Okay, so I was wrong. Yeah, so the Grand Orient of France is continental tradition of Freemasonry, otherwise known as liberal. So it is not recognized um, by Ontario, the Grand Orient. I don't believe GLDF is recognized either. But like I said, I will have to look up. I will have to look up um, the actual list. So, what can you tell me about the GLDF? There's one in Montreal. Is there any GLDF lodges outside of Montreal? Like, or sorry, outside of France and Montreal, like in any other countries? Because I know there are several countries, like for example in Africa, which have a heavy French presence, like the Ivory Coast, things like that. Is GLDF located there, or where might GLDF be found? Which Belgium makes sense to me. There are a few lodges in Africa. Okay. Happy Friday indeed. I have to find that list. I know it's around somewhere. Actually, maybe I can find it quickly now, because now I'm really curious. I'm trying to remember. Grand Lodge de France, Dad. It's a Masonic body, located in France. It's under the Scottish Rite jurisdiction. So, its ritual is Scottish Rite based. All right, here we go. Let's see now if I can figure this out. Resources. Recognition is actually a really important thing. When it comes to Freemasonry, we should kind of have a good idea of our recognitions, who is and who isn't a recognized body within Freemasonry. And usually, as most Masons know, greetings from Romania. Thank you, Darius. If you want to know if somebody is from a recognized Masonic body, your sign-in book, your register, should have at the front of it a list of all of the recognized Masonic bodies around the world, or Masonic jurisdictions around the world. So that's where you find it. And make sure, if you're a secretary or worshipful master, make sure that you are keeping those up to date and accurate, right? Because every year there's a new list that comes out. So make sure you keep all of that information accurate, because it doesn't change, right? It doesn't. There are plenty of times when a Masonic body will be recognized one year and may not be recognized the next, or may merge with another, or may change its name, whatever it might be. So you need to keep those things in mind. Yes, Google Chrome. That's quite the band name I've got. You can recognize yourself. That is perfectly fine. In fact, I support you recognizing yourself. Good for you. I recognize you as well. Mr. Keeps, how is it going? Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario. That's my jurisdiction. I'm also a member of the Grand Lodge out of Israel, and the Grand Lodge out of Israel, and the Grand Lodge out of Texas. Well, I am a Freemason, so I guess if you want, you could argue I'm a victim of Freemasonry. Certainly, a lot of my time and energy have been victims of Freemasonry over the years. So there's that. Here it is, recognition of Grand Lodges. I'm going to figure this out because I forget where France is in the thing. France Nationale. Okay. So, France Nationale Grand Lodge. So there you go. That's what it is. So it's not Grand Orient, which I didn't think it was, and it's not GLDF. Having said that, in this stream, I mean, it is open for Masons, non-Masons. It's open for Masons who are not recognized, because I don't, talk about any of the secrets or anything I'm not supposed to talk about, which means it's an open forum to discuss Freemasonry in all its forms, whether it be recognized or different jurisdictions or the liberal branch or whatever it might be. Yeah, but I mean, I do still consider them. I do still consider them Masons, right? Like, the way I've always viewed it is, look, if somebody from the Grand Orient came to visit me and say hello, I would consider them a brother and a Mason. That is, they would not be able to attend my Masonic meeting. But I would go out and have, a barbecue with them or hang out and show them around the building, stuff like that. It was not a Masonic ritual seen in Eyes Wide Shut. I swear Stanley Kubrick has caused more consternation for Freemasons, because for some reason, I don't know why, everybody thinks it was based on Freemasonry. The Knights Templar did not start the Masons. just for the record. The Knights Templar existed from around 1118 to 13. I used to know the date, till Black Friday in the 13th century. Freemasonry started about 400 years later. Um, well, stonemasons built the pyramids, Google Chrome, but Freemasons did not. Stonemasons are, men or tradesmen who worked with stone, who shaped stone for projects, whether it be pyramids or walls or buildings or temples or whatever it might be. Um, so yeah. And welcome, though, Google Chrome. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. I don't, well, I mean, if I go far enough back, Google Chrome, we all do. But my dad is English and my mom's side of the family is Swedish. So, but the Knights Templar, I mean, what happened is when Freemasonry was formed, um, and the York Rite in particular, they looked back on the Knights Templar and borrowed from the Knights Templar a lot of symbolism, symbology, philosophies, which they then applied to their Masonic work. 7 EBAS says, okay. Hello, 7 EBAS. Hello to you as well. Best of luck. You probably don't need to make that your job in life. Freemasons will probably do it just fine ourselves with some of the foolish decisions I see us making. Having said that, you can try it. Freemasonry is kind of like the United States in a sense. We take a licking but keep on ticking. Despite all the challenges we've faced, we've been around for 100 years and still seem to be floating around. So, well then, from where do we come? Where does humanity derive, if not initially from Africa, if you go back a few million years? I do believe in a supreme being. It's not the supreme being because every Freemason will have his or her own personal view of that. So, I mean, broadly speaking, right? There are Freemasons who are um, Christian. There are those who are Muslim. There are those who are Jewish. There are those who are Hindus, Sikh, Wiccan. So there is no, within Freemasonry, the supreme being. There is, right? And within Freemasonry, we don't say to a new applicant, you must believe in the supreme being. We say you must believe in a supreme being. And we leave that up to the individual. Well, it's kind of the opposite, 7 EVAS, right? Because the whole point is a cult expects uniformity of belief amongst its membership. That is one of the distinguishing characteristics of a cult, right? Which is you expect uniform belief from all membership. And we in Freemasonry don't have that. We argue amongst ourselves. We argue, amongst leadership. It's settled through democracy and votes, things like that. But there's plenty of disagreements. And there is no uniform religious belief because Freemasonry is not a religion. No, we don't have so in Freemasonry, again, there's not a single leader. One of the greatest misconceptions about Freemasonry, 7 EVAS, is that there is a single leader that is kind of pulling the strings around the world. That is not the case. In Ontario, the supreme leader is called the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ontario, and he's a leader for a limited period of time. There's votes and there's new Grand Masters put in every couple of years. In most jurisdictions, the person in charge is called the Grand Master, but he can make rules exclusively within his jurisdiction. And then in Lodge, it's the Worshipful Master. Well, but I mean, master is a rank. It refers back to stonemasons. Because when you had stonemasons, people who built things from stone, if you were a master builder, the idea was you were so well skilled as a craftsman, you could be in charge of a building site and direct other stonemasons how to behave and how to, what to do. You're basically like the foreman of a job. At the time, it would have been called a master, right? A master builder. How can I dismantle them all? Honestly, we're doing a pretty good job of dismantling it ourselves at the moment for a variety of reasons. So I don't know if you need to do anything. But also, I'm not sure why you'd want to. Um, in my view, Freemasonry existing, uh, Freemasonry, for it to exist, the world is made better by its existence. About to sneeze. Um, so I've always viewed it that way. Oh, geez, about to sneeze? No, I'm okay. So I would hope that Freemasonry continues to exist for, the next 100, 200, 300 years. I think the world is a worse place if there's no Freemasonry. Why would I not respect the Rotary Club? I respect any civic organization. I think one of the biggest challenges and mistakes we're making is that we are within Freemasonry, we don't always show enough love and respect to our Masonic, or not our Masonic, but our civic brethren. So those other civic groups, I think we need to show more support for them, right? One of the biggest mistakes we've made is this idea that Freemasonry can grow, and if the other civic groups start to die off, that's okay. A strong civic culture that includes a strong Rotary, a strong Knights of Columbus, etc., will only make Freemasonry stronger. Canada's doing fine. I'm Canadian. I love being Canadian. I think it's an incredible country. I have absolutely zero belief that Canada's fallen. It's going through its struggles, but which countries aren't at the moment? And by the way, when has it not ever, like, when has when has Canada or any country not gone through its struggles? Go through any time in history, um, you're going to find struggles within a country. Not really, not a big Tom Green fan. Nothing against him, I just never really got into his comedy. We do not. I can assure you, Freemasons do not want to take over the country, take over the world, in fact, nor do we want to create any anarchist international terrorisms. I feel pretty free. I feel pretty liberated. Um, my day-to-day life. I'm not sure to what freedom you are referring. Um, Fareed Jafari, welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Um, there is not any satanic stuff. I may, who knows, going far enough back, cap or die. My dad's from Northern England. My mom is from Canada, but her family is from Sweden. Um, well, I take boxing lessons, so maybe I'll be okay. Who knows? Doggy McNaughty, thank you for being here once again. Spirit, how's it going? I hope things are going well down in your neck of the woods. Well, they never told me that. Although I do know in some cases, like I heard in the States, one of the things that they recommend is in certain places, like sporting games, is they tell people when they park their cars to actually leave the windows rolled down and take all their valuables out. Because what people were doing is breaking into cars, like breaking windows and, reaching in and trying to find stuff in the car. They said if you just leave your windows rolled down, there's nothing to break. They'll look in and not take anything. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I feel like that's probably a terrible idea when it comes to insurance, but that is what I heard some people were suggesting. Um, I do not own a firearm. More police. I mean, I'm personally, and this is me speaking personally for myself, take it for what it's worth. I'm personally a believer, not that I think we do need more police, but I also think that the police that we currently have need to be better trained. I once read a report about the military, and it was for every I think it was like for every 100 hours of service, I'm probably messing this up. For every 100 hours of service, it's like 10 hours of training or something like that. After you've already been, so you when you start, it's nothing but training. Eventually, when you pass your training and become an active military officer, they expect 10 hours of training for every 100 hours of service, something like that. I could have swore. I think within the police, you need to have a similar thing. I think we need to invest way more money into our police and into our, first responders, and there needs to be mandatory training of, again, let's say for every, let's say for every week of active duty, you need to spend at least a couple hours in some type of training. You know, we need to spend more money on our first responders, not less. Uh, do I believe my? I mean, I do not. I'm not a big believer in guns myself, as a general rule. So, wise looking tree. I will do that. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Explain to me what Freemasonry is using without using big words. Well, my IQ is probably 30 in fairness. So, Freemasonry is a social club or a social group which evolved from stone masonry guilds, which are basically trade unions from the 15th and 16th centuries. So think a modern social club trappings of a with the trappings of a fraternal stonemason trade union. Not good when only the government. I don't like the word only, when exclusively. So I've never been a big believer in gun ownership personally. Um, right. Especially it's that is true. I was a probation officer. It really never made a lot of sense to me, the argument of why does the government get to have guns exclusively. I could understand that argument a couple hundred years ago when basically technology was at such a curve that you could arm a community and have that community be as equally armed as your government. In 2025, there's no way to arm a population in any way, shape, or form equivalent to what the government has. So the idea of, a militia being able to stop a government takeover through weapons just seems insane to me. The government has the amount of technological and weaponry advantage any government has over the average citizen. It's night and day. So I never really understood that as an argument. But I think really this kind of touches on a Masonic idea, which is the best way to preserve our freedoms is not through arming ourselves. It's through, in my opinion, it's through a strong civic and civil engagement, and strong community groups, and working with our neighbors and our community members to form groups and form supports. So if the government ever does become tyrannical, we have at least a support system to protect ourselves and protect the vulnerable. It's one of those things where um, um, the everybody knows within nature, those who are isolated are the weakest, right? That's predators understand that when they're hunting, they will try to separate out one animal from the pack because it's easier target. So having strength within group supports is the best way to fight back against tyranny and also the best way to protect freedoms and civic institutions. Um, the well, that is true. That's always the argument, right? That people will say it's like, but again, it's what are you trying to do? If you had a government become tyrannical to the point they're turning on their own people, at that point, they probably have very different goals than what you saw in Vietnam. And they'd probably be much more willing to use all of their technological might to achieve those ends, which is why I don't think those comparisons work anymore. If you get again, if you become tyrannical enough, does that mean you have government starts considering like the worst case scenarios for things? And I think you can imagine what those are. So I just don't know if that's a fair comparison. I do not know who Gert is, but please hit like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. I have not, Andrew M. Or maybe I have. Who knows, Andrew M. What I'm going to say to you is I don't, people can think of me whatever they please. Who knows? I mean, I don't think so either, Vincent. I think you're probably correct. But like I said, I have my concerns about what I'm seeing in America at the moment with the current government and the path it's taking. But I do think and hope, anyways, that there is a sufficient number of, that the army basically, there would be a point where the army would, or the military would just say no if they start to feel it's becoming too tyrannical. So that at least is my hope and my belief. We'll see whether that's true or not. Maybe or maybe not. Like I said, America is one of these countries where it can take a hell of a beating and yet keep on ticking. And not only keep on ticking, but come back stronger. What was the old Winston Churchill quote? You can always trust Americans to do the right thing after exhausting every other option. Hey, there were a lot of Masons in 1776 as well, and to bring that up. George Washington, Paul Revere, Ben Franklin, Zaid Ali. Please hit like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I mean, and George Washington was famous for being like a very active Freemason, even as president. It's one of those things where he was known as like, um, he was known for taking care of a ton of like Masonic business. He would visit Masonic lodges. He would respond to Masonic correspondence while he was president. So I thought that's a really, really cool thing. I think that's fair. He's one of my favorites. My favorite Mason, or sorry, my favorite Masons, my favorite presidents would be George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, LBJ, Lincoln, and Biden. What's interesting is of all of those, one, Lincoln, we know was not a Mason. The other, Biden, may or may not have been a Freemason, or may or may not be a Freemason. There's debate amongst that. But the rest were all Freemasons. So, maybe that says something about our Masonic values within governmental locations. Yeah, I think Biden was great. Like I said, my favorite president of my lifetime. There's not been that many, right? I was born in '83, so it's Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and then Trump again. Priscilla, hello. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I think you've already hit the like and subscribe button, but nonetheless, thank you for being here. Yeah, but I don't know if there's a lot he could have done about that. Right. I think the hit primarily came from messed up supply chains as a consequence of COVID, as well as companies taking advantage of the chaos to raise prices unfairly. To raise prices not based on market demands, but based on just the knowledge they could do it and not get punished for it. Kennedy was, I mean, I preferred LBJ. I don't think Kennedy could have got the Civil Rights Act passed. Having said that, Kennedy was a good president. I mean, I just watched A House of Dynamite, which got me thinking of 13 Days, which is a great movie about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so, yeah, I've been looking into a little bit about uh, Freemasonry, about the Cuban Missile Crisis. One question I always had, or thought I had, and I had this thought when I was watching House of Dynamite. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's a scene in House of Dynamite where the Undersecretary of Defense is talking to his Russian counterpart. Basically, House of Dynamite, the story is America detects a missile launched over the Pacific, which they believe will hit Chicago. They have 20 minutes to decide what to do. Specifically, the president has 20 minutes to decide how to respond before the missile hits Chicago, and not the filmmaker Vincent. And anyways, so as this missile's coming, obviously the rest of the world becomes quite scared that they can all detect the missile, and they're scared if the missile hits Chicago and blows up, America's going to respond by retaliating against everybody because they don't know who shot the missile. So there's this fear that everybody's going to retaliate at the same time, and that's the end of the world, right? And one part, the Russians contact America. This Undersecretary of Defense has to talk to his Russian counterpart, and the Russian is saying, like, we didn't do it, we didn't shoot the missile, please don't retaliate against us, and maybe don't retaliate against anybody because we don't know what's happened and you could end the world. The American is saying, look, we're going to lose a city in about 15 minutes, and we need to do something here. We need some type of assurance it wasn't you, and also you're not going to take advantage of this situation now that we will be hit to attack us once again, or attack us in addition to this attack. But it got me thinking, what if they were both Freemasons and knew that they were both Freemasons? Would that have affected their discussion on the phone? Would they have had more of a level of trust with each other early on? I don't know. It just got me thinking. And then it got me thinking about, for example, World War II and the Cuban Missile Crisis, excuse me, and the same thing. I mean, we know all's well that ends well, and nothing happened, thank heavens. But if there had been Masons on either side of those, either side of that situation, would things have been less tense? Would they have come to solution quicker? I know in theory Freemasonry was outlawed in the Soviet Union and was theoretically banned in Cuba, although it still existed under Castro. But even then, there was underground Freemasonry at the time. So I don't know. Just got me thinking, in these international trade negotiations and international crises, if there were Masons on either side of the negotiations, would it be easier to find solutions to these challenges? You could argue yes. You could also argue no. Famously, George Washington and King George were both Freemasons. Didn't stop the Revolutionary War. So who knows? Benji Zachary, thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. You mentioned that you're from Internet Lodge. I would like to join Internet Lodge. I sent a message to them ages ago, but I never heard back about an interest in joining. I don't know if you might be able to pass on my info to them. Let me give you my email address: info@squareandcompass.ca. Also, let me know, would you be interested in being on my podcast to talk about the Internet Lodge? Because I'd love to do an interview about it. To my knowledge, it's the exclusive Internet Lodge in the world. There's one in Manitoba. I can't think of the name of it now. Dad might remember, which I believe has virtual meetings, but that's the exclusive other one I know of. There are lodges that do virtual events, things like that, but Castle Island, there we go. Benji is ahead of it for me. Yes, Castle Island. By the way, out of UGLE, I'm going to be visiting England in about a week and a half, and I cannot wait. I'm very, very excited. It's going to be a blast. I'm going to be attending the Arcana Veritas Distinction Awards in Edinburgh and visiting some family. So, looking forward to it very much. Okay, well, shoot me off an email. I think I sent you it, info@squareandcompass.ca. Actually, my hope is I arrive on the 24th in the morning. I'm taking a bus to Newcastle that afternoon, but I have a few hours in London. I was hoping to visit UGLE, Mason's Hall, while I'm there for at least a couple hours. I don't know anything about Iraq's current government, so I can't say. Other than I don't believe it allows Freemasonry in Iraq, and I hope they change that because I'd love to see Freemasonry exist in Iraq and around the world. And Vincent says, "You're really making me want to be a Mason." Well, if you want to be a Mason, you know the old cliche, to be one, ask one. Contact your local Masonic lodge and ask to speak to them. Don't even start with a desire to join. Start with a desire to learn more. Well, yes, I mean, that's absolutely the case, Benji. Um, right? I've talked about this before. So often within Freemasonry, the way it spread, especially in the 17th and 18th centuries, was military expeditions. Masonic lodges would be present within military detachments. You saw that in Russia, India, especially, Iraq, the Middle East, and they would bring Freemasonry to the areas in which the military was deployed. So as Britain especially was engaging in, right, their empire, having to send their military and their troops around the world, Freemasonry kind of followed those troops. It was either that or it was economic expansion through things like the East India Trading Company, where they would set up ports in different countries around the world. Those ports and those towns would then, Masonic lodges would form therein. You saw that in Hong Kong, especially, right? In Hong Kong, the United Grand Lodge of England set up lodges, but that was primarily through the East India Trading Company. And then in Macau, it was Portuguese Freemasons that set up their lodges. But in both cases, it was on the backs of trade routes. The dad. Nice. By the way, the dad, please hit like and subscribe. Sorry, which category are you in? Let me see if I can find you. Maddie DeMart. Hiya, Maddie. Please hit like and subscribe. Auslander. I just found out what Auslander Rouse means. Got to be honest with you, not a fan of what that means. I just discovered, but I'm still gonna let you stay on here, obviously. But I have my concerns. This stream is about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on it? These Fridays are just Friday hangout days. I don't have specific topics. I just hang out with people. Okay. Congratulations, the dad. That's awesome. I'm under the Masonic white paper category. So I guess we're not up with each other, but that is very cool. Have you read my work, Andy Albright? If not, I can send it to you, send you the link. Forgive me, I haven't read yours, but I'd love to read yours, and maybe what I could even do is interview you to talk about your your work, or even maybe send you some questions. You could answer them in written form if you'd be interested. So the way to get in touch with me is info@squareandcompass.ca. Shoot me off an email, and I will make sure to respond when I can and send you a link. If you want, I can even send you a list of questions, and if you want to answer them, I can do a medium story about your work. What's interesting is I just had a brother do a presentation in our Masonic Lodge about the Divine Comedy and Freemasonry. For some reason, well, Zachary, hit the like and subscribe on both of your accounts. Whomever sent the email, Benji, I don't know if I've got it yet. I'm going to give it a bit more time. For some reason, that email has been being really slow. I don't know why, but it's a pain. But it comes through at some point or another. And is your contact info on here as well? Well, it looks like it's going to be awesome, though. It looks like it's going to be a great time. When are you, the dad slash Andrew, when are you arriving? Are you flying into London, flying into Scotland? What's your plan? I'm flying into London about the week before, and I'm going to spend the week with my family from England, up in Newcastle, and then go from Newcastle to Scotland. I'm also very much hoping when I get the chance to check out, hopefully, Rosalind Chapel. I've been debating it, whether I want to visit it or not, because I'm going to be busy. But I'm going to try to bring up, check out Rosalind Chapel. Sergio, hello. Thank you for being here. Yes, just light conversations, Maddie. So, let's hope just light conversations. And I do not know what it means to ghost blink. So, I guess no. And thank you, by the way, Michael Moore, for kindly showing, promoting my stream. Very much appreciate it. Yeah, it's been lots of fun. Okay, so you're going to be there for an even shorter period of time than me, but still, it'll be awesome, I'm sure. Do you have any plans to check anything out while you're there? Like I said, my hope is to check out the Rosalind Chapel. Well, I'm not from England. I'm from Canada, born and raised, but my dad is from England. He met a nice Canadian girl, and you know what happens. You meet a Canadian girl, next thing you know, you move to Canada. So I've been saying on this stream, everybody, I got it, Zachary. I got the email. I've been saying what everybody needs to do is, if you are a mother in England, lock up your sons. Don't let them meet a Canadian girl, because next thing you know, they're moving to Canada. What I've also said is what I should do is, when I'm in England, find a nice British girl and marry her. So you take one of ours, we'll take one of yours, type of things. Although the problem is I'm going to be spending all my time in Newcastle. I won't be able to understand anything they say, because they sound like a bunch of crazy people. So I'd be married to someone I couldn't understand what they're saying. Although in fairness, most of my girlfriends say I never listen to them anyways. So what do I know? Yes, Tuesday's Explore Day. Want to see the chapel and the Writers Museum at the very least. Nice. Yeah, I want to see the chapel as well. Again, the issue is it's just the time it takes to get from Edinburgh, because the ceremony is at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm assuming it'll be finished by 12, by 1 o'clock at the latest. My hope is that would give me time to check out the chapel before I head back to Newcastle. Your accent, not no. Well, I mean, I'm Canadian again, right? Born in Canada, but my pops is from England. Um, Maddie, thank you for being here once again. If you can, please hit that like and subscribe button. I would truly, truly appreciate it. I hope everybody's having a great night. Just Celine Dion. We got Avril Lavigne. What are you doing forgetting about her? She was my childhood. Um, the dad slash, would you be interested in doing an interview about the Divine Comedy? Again, it can be either in written form or it can be on my actual YouTube account. Hello, agnostic. Thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. Welcome from Russia. There is actually Freemasonry in Russia. Freemasonry in Russia is fascinating because what's so fascinating about it is it's both really, really old and really, really new all at the same time. Because obviously, Freemasonry in Russia came in the late 1700s, but then it kind of, it was outlawed during the Soviet era. Came back to Russia in 1995 or 96. I think 95, if I'm getting it correctly. So it's one of those things where it's both hundreds of years old and also 30 years old, which is just like a fascinating. Well, the dad info at squareandcompass.ca. Shoot me off an email and we'll look at what we can do for a recorded interview and when we can do it. It will be a lot of fun. I like Dante's Inferno. So girls in Newcastle say, how are you, Hinny? See, I'm not going to be able to understand a word they say. Even I was talking to my cousin. Oh, perfect. I got it here. Awesome. I was talking to my cousin, and he was asking me if he thought that my wheelchair would fit in the the boot of his car. And my response was, it's not called a boot, it's called a trunk. It's a good thing that your Canadian cousin is showing up to teach you how to speak proper English. But apparently in England, they call the trunk of a car a boot. Music 22, music come 22. Hit that like and subscribe button despite what you're saying. Thank you everybody for being here. No, I'm really looking forward to. I mean, I've been incredibly lucky. Incredibly lucky over the years. When it comes to traveling. I even say I feel like I haven't traveled for a while, which is insane because I was in Chicago and Glenview about 2 months ago. Then I was in Toronto, then I was in Detroit, but I haven't basically traveled since mid-October. And the fact that I consider that a long time to not travel just shows how lucky I am. I speak English and bad English. So, Owen Snowden from the Global. So it'd be great to, because I did want to get a chance to visit a Masonic lodge while I'm in Newcastle. Not necessarily to attend a meeting, because I don't know what their schedule is, but at least to see the building, take some pictures. I have accounts where I post pictures of Masonic buildings, both facades as well as the interiors. Hopefully, I'll get the chance to visit one while I'm there. I speak the dad, I speak English and bad English, so what can I say? Um, and also maybe Owen can act as like a translator for me while I'm there. So when I'm out at the bar or out, hanging out, he can walk with me and let me know what people are saying to me or translate Canadian to Geordie. Because I'm sure I could use the help. So we got somebody in the chat who's trolling and YouTube is blocking him, as it should. The answer is no. Music, the answer is no. Hello, Theophilus. How is it going? Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll hit that like. Well, actually, you've already, I know you hit subscribe. I hope you hit the like button. Consider doing a 99-cent super chat and let me know how it's going. Nice. Well, then I'd love to get the chance to meet with him. Like I said, I arrived the morning of the 24th. Then I basically got the day of the 25th to myself to do anything. The 26th, I've got the Arcana Awards in the morning. And then the evening, I'm free. The 27th, I'm going to try to make it to Halt Whistle, my dad's old town. And then the 28th, flying back to Toronto. So 5 days, not nearly long enough. Theophilus, how is it going? Thank you for joining, as always. I hope that you are doing well. Interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't know what that, I would say that there's I can tell people apart pretty easily. I don't know what it means that the faces are very same. I think there's differences amongst just individual faces. I do not know to what you are referring with that, Maddie. Climate affects the way people look quite a bit. So I guess northern climates. I don't know. But no, it's been one thing I've loved about this stream is getting a chance to talk to the dad about his work and maybe have him on the podcast. I'm going to the installation of the Grand Lodge officers and the Festival of St. Andrew at the Corn. Where is that? What is the Corn Exchange? I have no idea what that is to what you're referring to. That is true, Brother Courtney. Where is the Festival of St. Andrew? Where is the Corn? I'd love to check that out if I could. But like I said, I'll be in Newcastle or Newcastle area for most of my trip. So I'm not sure if I'll get the chance to check it out. It would be a blast to check out, though. I would love it. And don't forget, everybody watching this, if you want to support this channel and its efforts to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, consider doing a super chat. Even 99 cents helps out big time, and it helps other people find this stream. So please consider doing so. And it'll help make me some money to apply for my United Kingdom citizenship. How much are tickets, if you don't mind my asking, the dad? I can look it up myself. All is well, the taco guy. How are things with you? Thank you for being here once again. Ooh, that's actually not cheap at all. But I'm going to look this up. Especially because that pound to human thing is, or pound to human, Jesus, pound to Canadian dollar thing is quite the exchange rate. I don't know what the exchange rate is like between the pound and the American dollar, but um, I try to stream every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. and then oh, here it is, Festival of St. Andrew, and then 1 a.m. as well, Mondays through Thursdays, basically. And then on Sundays, when possible, I try to either have a podcast episode released, or I try to um, either a podcast episode or some type of social media posting or something special. 401. You're not down the 401 Great North. You're up the 401. Whereas down as you can get in Windsor, geographically speaking. But welcome, Great North Barbecue. Thank you for being here. So you're better off than we are, if that makes you feel any better, the dad. 300 gets me about 150 Canadian. I used to love the crummy exchange rate because back in the day, my grandma Lily, for my birthday, would send me money. She would always send me money in British pounds, and she'd send me like $10 in British pounds, and I'd go and exchange it. It would be worth like 20, 25 Canadian. So I loved it when my grandma Lily was sending me money. I did not like it so much, or I'm not going to enjoy it when I have to go there and actually do the exchange rate myself. That should be interesting, to say the least. Great North, how's it going? Oh no, that's the opposite, Theophilus. I loved that. Um, I remember because I went to, wait, what's the pesos again? The Mexican pesos, right? I remember traveling to Mexico on a couple of occasions, going with like 100 Canadian and ending up with like, I don't even know what is the thing now. CAD to, if I had like 100, yeah, I'd have 100 Canadian dollars. I'd have 1,300 Mexican pesos. It was crazy. I remember going to the Philippines. It was even more. It was like 100 Canadian was 5,000. It was nuts. Let me see. But the problem with that is it's very easy if you're in the Philippines to spend, yeah, 44,000. It's very easy to spend a poop ton of money and not realize it because everything is so cheap. Relative to Canada, you end up spending way more than you thought you would because it seems very cheap. What degree am I? The degree that matters. Third degree Master Mason. That's the most important degree. That's the degree that is the highest rank. I'm also 18th degree Scottish Rite, but the thing you need to remember about Freemasonry, and again, I speak exclusively for myself, is that just because you are 33rd degree, it does not mean that you're 11 times more important than a third degree Master Mason. What is up, Christopher? My mother lodge is Windsor Lodge number 403. I joined it in 2007, October of 2007. I'm also a member of 3 other lodges in Ontario, 1 lodge in Israel, 1 lodge in Texas. So, I'm not going to talk about our rituals, Vincenzo. For that, you have to um, join Freemasonry and learn for yourself. And the reason I don't talk about the rituals of Freemasonry um, is because the way I always describe it is imagine you had a family recipe. It goes from your grandparents to your parents to you. You're not going to share that family recipe online or talk about it online. And it's not because there's anything nefarious or negative about the family recipe. Rather, maintaining the privacy of that family recipe is a way for you to maintain the bonds of brotherhood between yourself, the bonds of the family between past, current, and future generations. If everybody knows the recipe, then the recipe no longer has that bonding capacity within the family. Freemasonry is the same thing, where we have rings and coins, we have our jewels, we have things like this. However, and which is beautiful, That's not what's important. What's important in Freemasonry, what bonds us together is our ritual and the shared experience of the Masonic ritual. If I start sharing Masonic ritual with everybody online, it limits that. Now, that's absolutely not to say, and everybody has different ideas about what they will and will not share. There are some things I'm willing to share that under old school Freemasonry, like Masonry in the 70s, would have considered to be secrets. All Masons kind of make certain decisions on that. I'm happy that we're much more open now than we used to be. But I think openness is a good thing. But there are certain things I won't share because I think part of it, as Great North says, it's a bit of a spoiler. But a bigger part of it is I don't want to impact the bonds of brotherhood between our membership. Um, Great North, by the way, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. And thank you so much for joining. I love the Philippines. I wish I could stay there, or could have stayed there longer. I was there not nearly long enough, I'm sad to say. Very nice people, beautiful city, packed. Like, I don't know if ever been to a city. I went to Manila. If I've ever visited a city that was so densely populated, like people everywhere, but friendly people, a beautiful park, cats everywhere, interesting enough, stray cats everywhere. And I love cats, so I like that a lot. But they were friendly. They would come right up to you, you pet them. I really loved the Philippines. I wish I could have spent longer there. I will let you know for sure, Zachary. I will let you know for sure. I mean, prevalent, absolutely, Michael Moore. There were way more Masons in the 70s, but keep in mind, even that, I mean, there was 4 million Masons in 1959 in the States. The number has been dropping since 1960. So by the 70s, you already were dealing with a pretty precipitous drop in Freemasonry. And so if you were asked a Mason in the 70s, the status of Freemasonry, they would say it's actually struggling a lot. It's just we're 50 years removed from that. And so we look back on it as being this time of growth, or not time of growth, but a time when Freemasonry was so much more prevalent. It's all relative. Great North, that's a good way to look at it. I don't know if I would 100% agree with that. I love our ritual, but to me, I've always viewed ritual primarily as a means to an end, that end being to form bonds of brotherhood through a shared experience. I tend to shy away from the idea of a more spiritual or philosophical underpinning to it. Um, I think it's necessary in the same way. There's nothing really spiritual about a family recipe, but nonetheless, it's valuable as a way to maintain bonds between families. I usually view ritual in that sense. Um, they are not, Vincenzo. They are not. As someone who's attended and been part of many third degrees, they are not satanic, either in terms of emulation ritual or York ritual or Scottish Rite ritual, etc., etc. There probably is the dad. I mean, there's not simply one thing, right? And the problem is it's also not a fraternity issue. It's a civic society issue. I mean, they've been talking about this since Bowling Alone in the 90s, recently turned into the movie Join or Die, which is a great movie. There's not simply one issue, right? There's a multitude of reasons and a multitude of issues. Um, you could argue it started with the television, giving people a reason to stay home. It expanded into, I mean, honestly, I think the biggest issue is, hello, Daniela. I think the biggest issue is the economy. or economics. I've argued for millions of years. I've been arguing for what feels like millions of years that you cannot separate the economic conditions of a country or community from the conditions of Freemasonry, right? In the 70s, especially, one thing you had was, I forget the term for it now, decoupling, which is what you started to see was worker productivity rising, but worker wages remaining stagnant. So basically, people were working, producing more, but not seeing an increase in their wages. At the same time, prices for things started to go up. And that's continued basically uninterrupted. And a consequence of that is men who would otherwise potentially want to join Freemasonry are working longer hours. They have to take on multiple jobs, or they have two income households, which affects their ability to join Freemasonry, right? Can I afford to be a Freemason, right? I brought this up before, right? If you and um, um, Great North, the dad, Michael Moore, I don't know what you would think about this, but I just read a report that said young people are putting off what would have been considered major life milestones to much, much later of age than previous generations. They're owning a home later in life. They're having a family later in life. They're having multiple kids later in life, because of the economic uncertainty they're feeling. By that token, does it make sense that they might put off being a Freemason until later in life? Or maybe they'll join Freemasonry, but they'll put off getting a third degree, becoming a worshipful master, joining a rite, until later on in life, while they focus first and foremost on getting their economic conditions settled, or in a place where they feel it's settled. Right? I brought this up a couple times, but the goodbye, Dad, I love you. Thank you for being here. I brought up what was I saying? Most Americans, the average cushion they have, right? The average financial cushion they have, which means the amount of money they can afford to spend before they are required to either go into credit card debt or cut back on other expenses, is $600. So if they have a $600 expense, they need to either go into debt or cut back on other expenses to cover it. You consider the shutdown, the government shutdown, most government workers lost at least 3 or 4 paychecks, which means suddenly they're out that $600. At what point do they start looking at not paying their Masonic dues, asking the lodge for benevolence, which creates stress on the lodge, demitting, or they get a second job, which means they can pay for their dues, but they're not showing up to lodge because they have 2 jobs, right? You cannot separate these economic factors from the challenges being faced by Freemasonry, nor political factors, nor social factors. There are many Knights Templar groups in existence. They do, but then can they remain within Freemasonry, right? And can they maintain that feeling of importance if they're struggling in their personal life? We do not. I mean, it's funny, Vincenzo. Freemasonry, in 2025, I think, and this is very anecdotal, but I think that Freemasonry has this general, within the general population, a lot of people seem to view Freemasonry as like a right-wing organization. It's not a political organization at all, left or right-wing. But nonetheless, there's this idea that Freemasonry is right-wing. Historically, Freemasonry was known as a left-wing organization. If you look at a lot of famous Masons from the 17th and 18th centuries, it was certainly considered to be more left-wing, at least left-wing in the sense of being opposed to tyranny and being pro-democracy. So it was very much opposed to monarchies or absolute rulers and very much promoted democracy. You saw that with George Washington famously, but Garibaldi out of Italy, who famously opposed kind of aristocratic rule in Brazil, if I recall correctly, Jose Rizal out of the Philippines. It's just interesting the way individuals in the broader community will ascribe political ideology to Freemasonry, when in fact Freemasonry is not a political ideology. And we have members on all sides of the spectrum. Um, I agree, Great North. Well, I mean, Freemasonry is a social safety net, right? One of the greatest strengths of it is Freemasonry can absolutely act as a social safety net and does act as a social safety net. I know many brethren who, when I say many, I've known two Masonic brothers who would have been homeless were it not for Freemasons um, stepping in and covering rent, not just for them, but in one case for them and their family, their wife and their kids. Um, I know Freemasons who've needed emotional support and got it from their Masonic lodges and Masonic brethren. Needed a meal and went to a lodge to have a dinner, right? Like, but a lot of people get it mixed up. They think a social safety net um, as being a single, like the social safety net is a single net composed of government services, but the true social safety net is a patchwork. It's government programs, it's Freemasonry, it's churches, it's neighbors checking in on neighbors, it's elks, it's moose, it's charities, it's nonprofits, it's an informal collection of people. It's Prince Hall Masonry, AF&AM Masonry, and I think every organization has responsibility to try to maintain its social safety net. So hopefully, right, that's when people ask me, how do Freemasons help the community? It's like, well, you think of those two brothers who would have been homeless were it not for Masons stepping in and providing benevolence. That doesn't just help those brethren and their families, it helps the whole community, right? Without stepping in, now you have a family that's living on the streets. Now you have a family that needs more social services, that needs a food bank, that needs shelter space, right? Maintaining our social safety net maintains community at large. Um, you're not wrong. We help mental health all the time. We help physical health as well. There's been all sorts of studies that indicate the less lonely you are, the healthier you are. And Freemasonry combats loneliness. MS, I am well. Thank you for being here. So we have gay members, and they're my brothers. They're part of the craft. I've met probably two or three gay Freemasons. Great dudes. My favorite trans policy when it comes to Freemasonry is out of the Grand Lodge of England, which says, if you're a trans man, then you can join Freemasonry, no issues, no concerns. And I think the Grand Lodge of England got it right with that. When it comes to women, when I'm speaking of Freemasonry, normally I'm speaking of the fraternal side of the order, the fraternal side of Freemasonry. However, there is the Order of Women Freemasons, which is an excellent group, found primarily in England. There's also lodges in Ontario, as well as the Eastern Star, and there's youth groups as well for both young men and young women. Very true, we do, and those of us who don't. Well, no, I think Great North Barbecue. I'm a firm believer that what Freemasonry ultimately lacks in 2025 is relevance. Um, right? We need to be relevant to the communities in which we're located. I think that's the key. I think if we're not relevant to the communities in which we're located, um, um, then right, the danger of that is you lose your membership, you lose your membership, your membership stops showing up. You don't just lose the membership per se, as in you don't get new members. The members that you have, if it's not relevant to their community, it's not relevant to their life, you're not just going to see membership numbers reducing, you're also going to see um, you're also going to see um, the members you have not showing up, right? It needs to be relevant, is the point. It needs to be relevant to the community in which it's located. And a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, Great North, for a lot of people, there was this idea, Krenego, please hit like and subscribe. I don't know what that means. For a lot of people in Freemasonry, the biggest mistake that was made in the 70s and 80s was they stopped considering relevance important. They wanted to almost be less relevant, focus on the secrecy, focus on the privacy, focus on the esoteric nature of Freemasonry. And I think that's a huge mistake because it's like if we retreat from our communities will retreat from us. We have a responsibility to be relevant to the communities in which we're located. Um, and if we're not, why would we ever expect our membership numbers to ever grow again? And by the same token, why would we expect our members, who are first and foremost community members, right? I'm a citizen of Windsor, I'm a resident of Windsor before I'm a Freemason. Or actually, I would say I'm the opposite, but I'm unique. I'm a Freemason first and a resident second. However, that doesn't mean Windsor is not incredibly important to me. I'm always trying to be a cheerleader for Windsor, promote Windsor, talk Windsor up. And the reason I do that is because I want people in Windsor to know that I'm a Freemason and I love this city, I love this country, and I want to support it as much as I can. Um, yeah, I think the hideaway was just a terrible, terrible idea. JMad, please hit like and subscribe. Well, there's different jurisdictions. What I can say is Freemasonry does not discriminate, nor should it, with trans individuals. I don't know if there's ever been an official ruling on it in Canadian jurisdictions, to my knowledge. But I can say I would welcome LGBTQ membership, including trans members. So I can speak for myself on that one. And Freemasonry does not discriminate. Having said that, I think Texas has a very different view, as does, I think, some other places. Yes, it's going to be wonderful, the dad. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it very much. Um, well, I welcome G and the T. Um, oh, my whole life is getting pushback. Not terrible, but yeah, pushback for sure. I mean, it's one of those things where part of me, well, J Mad, we are not, but please hit like and subscribe. Part of me, a, a big part of me is like, and one of the reasons I get kind of frustrated when we in Freemasonry are nervous about trying something either new or trying something old and bringing it back to 2025 is like, what do we have to lose, right? Freemasonry, our membership numbers have dropped by 75% in 75% in since 1959 in North America. There's some indications that if we don't do some major things to change, that Freemasonry will cease to exist in America by 2040, based on the numbers that are dropping. So, I mean, why not try anything and everything that we possibly can, right? And not be afraid. One of the favorite quotes I had um, from Steve Jobs was, "Most people fail simply because they're afraid to try." So, but I will continue to support and promote the idea of needing to be relevant and fighting for relevance. Um, and if certain Masons, especially older school Masons, push back, that's okay. One of the best things about Freemasonry is we have multiple ideas and different views, and you settle them hopefully democratically somewhat. And you also have to be willing to take the risks, right? If I'm out here talking on YouTube and somebody doesn't like it and complains, then that's what you have to accept as part of the cost of doing business, right? That's the cost of playing baseball. There's benefits. I get to be here. I get to talk to people. I get $2 from Mr. Keeps. But there's also a cost to that. One of my biggest complaints within the social media sphere in general is a lot of content creators. I feel like they'll say, they'll go online, they'll put their views out there, but then when anybody complains about what they're saying, they'll retreat under free speech, and it's like, hey, you got to accept that if you're going to be online, you're going to get the criticisms. That's just what you have to accept. My biggest blowout, oh my gosh, there's been a few. I mean, I would say more, instead of going with blowout, I'll say the biggest continual fight, and I've been having this fight for probably 10 years, even more, is my fight to make Freemasonry relevant in communities. Because there is still an old guard of members from the 60s, 70s, maybe even joined in early 80s, who feel like Freemasonry should not be a public endeavor, including this. They feel like it should maintain its private nature. And so it's a constant battle to try to convince brethren that for Freemasonry to survive, it needs to be relevant, it needs to be public, there needs to be a professional component to it. One of the things I've been arguing for years is we within Freemasonry should suspend for non-attendance, which was a major battle, and I still believe that to be the case. I believe every Mason should be required to attend 2 meetings per year or face suspension, or 2 events per year. That was a big battle, which I've not won yet. Other jurisdictions have that, right? They have that in South America. They have that in the Philippines. We just don't have it here. And the idea of it's okay to want to turn your passion for Freemasonry into a profession, right? The whole point about this stream is a desire to turn passion into profession. Basically, by monetizing it, by talking about it, it's saying, you can make a living talking about Freemasonry, talking about the thing you love. Because with the Great Decoupling, for a lot of guys, they want to dedicate more time to Freemasonry. They just can't because they have to work. What if you could turn your work into Freemasonry, right? That became a big battle as well. Thank you for agreeing. Funny Republican, I don't know what that means. I would say imagination turns beautiful things into even more beautiful things. Josh Nolan, please hit like and subscribe. Mike, I've been talking about Freemasonry for a long time. Some guys don't like it. Some guys love it. Some guys are medium about it, but they all know about it. And some aren't happy with me, but that's okay. What I would say, though, is there are a lot of people talking about Freemasonry who are Masons. Masonic Roundtable, Old-Fashioned Masonic Podcast, First Three Knocks, I'm missing a whole bunch. Winding Stairs. There's a Craftcast. There are a ton of Masonic podcasts out there in 2025, but I have the best one. Just keep that in mind. The older members are not. I mean, nobody in Freemasonry, unless you count eating after 10 p.m. kind of freaky, then yes, the older members are quite freaky. Because, oftentimes we have dinner after lodge. Lodge can go till 9:30. And more than one occasion, I've had some older members say, like, I don't know if I can have this pizza after 10 p.m. I'm going to have gas all night. So there is that as well. Fraternal Ties, great one as well. They're doing a great job. Brother Fluff, thank you for the cool voice. I've had Brother Fluff on the podcast, actually. Well, engage with some more, Theophilus. You should. There's a lot of great Freemasons out there. Well worth engagement. Like I said, Brother Fluff. Masonic Roundtable, Juan Sepulveda, they're kind of the OGs, right? They're kind of the podfathers of Freemasonry, if you want to look at it that way. They're worth engagement therein. They do not. I promise you, they do not. So they're just out there like everybody else, right? Trying their best for Freemasonry. Trying their best to work within Freemasonry. Supports Roundtable. I know they support Craftcast, right? Which is, Craftcast. But I don't know if they're on YouTube. I think they're on other platforms. I could be mistaken. I'd have to double check. Yeah, I think they're on Spotify. I don't think they're on YouTube. I could be wrong about that. Okay, they are on YouTube. I think they're on Spotify as well. But again, I could be mistaken. I'm on Spotify, by the way. I have a whole bunch of old episodes on Spotify, nothing really new. But if anybody wants to check out my old Spotify episodes, or even Podbean, I still have them as well. But it's really old stuff. Anything new, you're finding here. Mike says witchcraft. I don't know anything about witchcraft. I actually do know a couple of Wiccan, Wiccan Freemasons, but I don't know about their witchcraft, or what it actually entails. I feel like some people think that we in Freemasonry practice witchcraft. We do not. By the way, everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. I'm one sub away from 2,840 subs. Yes, I am sure. And thank you again for the $2 donation, Mr. Keeps. I hope I managed to answer your question about biggest Masonic fights. It's a continuous fight. I mean, that's like within, if you want, and this is not just for Freemasonry, this is the same thing when I worked in a jail, when I was a probation officer. If you genuinely believe in what you're doing and you want to make changes for something that you think is important, then it's going to be a fight. That's just the price you pay, right? That's just the price you pay. When I was working in the jail and I was fighting to get to-go lunches for people, that was a fight. That was a battle when inmates were leaving, right? It's a small thing, but if they were leaving and they were homeless, or they were leaving and they did not have money for food because they had to spend all their money on rent, at least it gives them something. So, but that was a fight, right? There's always going to be fights. There are plenty of Masons who just kind of are Masons and they love Freemasonry. They show up, but they don't get involved in any kind of efforts to change things or grow. They show up, they do their work, and they go home, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to get in a leadership position or try to lead the craft in the direction you think is best, then you need to be prepared for a sustained fight. Worked at a jail. Provincial. I worked at the Southwest Detention Center. I was a rehab officer. So I worked with inmates when they were getting released from custody, trying to find them things like housing, employment opportunities, potentially get them into, get them set up with doctors and medical appointments if they needed it, get them ID, whatever they might need to try to reintegrate as successfully as possible. I also worked in the school program, screening inmates for school, and screening inmates for the school program and for the work program as well. So my job was hard. I'm not going to pretend it was easy, but I will say, relatively speaking, compared to correctional officers, my job was relatively easy. Correctional officers have a really challenging job, and they're really good dudes. So good. You need that. You need transitional housing, 100%. I am not paid to promote Freemasonry unless you count the $2.30 I just made. I mean, I work for myself, right? So it's not that I'm being paid by anybody. Rather, it's I'm trying to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession by streaming, getting a Patreon, advertising, whatever it is, and then using that to fund this channel and my efforts to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. Because I just don't believe that, in my opinion, if we do not find a way to make Freemasonry relevant to its membership through possible employment and turning into one's life, it's not going to survive much past 2050. Well, KAAL, thank you for being new to the channel. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. I truly appreciate it. Consider a 99-cent super chat. Negatives. Craftcast is great. I mean, sometimes, not as much as I like Great North. What are the negatives of Freemasonry? I mean, that's one of those questions where, I mean, it's hard to answer that because it's not that there aren't any negatives. It's the negatives are in service of, well, Japan has Freemasonry. Freemasonry in Japan is actually pretty prevalent. In China, it's in Hong Kong and Macau. Like, how do I put it? It's 7 o'clock. I'm tired. I don't want to go to a Masonic lodge. I don't want to go to a meeting. I want to stay home and watch TV. I choose to go to the Masonic meeting anyways. I go to the Masonic meeting. There's two brothers who are beefing with each other, so there's tension there. You don't want to deal with that. You're tired. You're cranky. Like, that stuff happens, right? To pretend it doesn't would be to mislead. But if you could make it through that meeting, you're doing something important and something valuable because you managed to get the bills paid. Those bills keep the building running, not just for yourself, but for everybody, including the public who uses it. Maybe you paid out some benevolence to a brother who needs support. You've dealt with all of the administrative work that you need to do, which means your lodge can function under the Grand Lodge rules and under the Grand Lodge requirements, which keep it functioning. It can happen. I mean, it's human nature, right? No, I don't care how much brotherly love you have. There is going to be, within any organization, there is going to be disputes, right? That's just human nature. I think Freemasonry gives you the philosophical tools or framework to deal with those in a healthy way. But find me a family that doesn't have beef between its membership, Oh yeah, burnout's very real. I've been struggling with Masonic burnout the last few years. And what Michael Moore's saying is absolutely correct, right? What happens is, the word is resentment, right? If you feel like I need to volunteer or else this thing won't be a success, then you're not volunteering because you want to. You're volunteering because you feel like You have to. And that breeds resentments between you and the other members because you feel like you're the one doing all the work. That becomes super challenging. But then the other brethren who are not volunteering, they feel that same resentment because in their mind, they've got a wife, a kid, a family, a job, all of which has to come first. They're being asked to volunteer their time. And if they say no, they get a sense of brothers feeling disappointed. That leads to resentments too, right? To pretend like those things don't exist, I think is a mistake. The benefit, though, again, what you have to do is you have to balance those out with what Freemasonry provides, right? I've said it before, and it sounds cheesy, but I believe it. I believe that if the world is to be made better, then to do so requires the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. I believe Freemasonry does make the world a better place. I think there are many ways to make the world a better place, but Freemasonry is the thing I've chosen to make the world a better place. Or you could say Freemasonry chose me in some ways. Because of all of that, even when you don't want to go, it's worth it to go. Even when the meeting doesn't go well, it's worth it to go to the next one. Even when you don't like a brother, it's worth it to sit with him in lodge and be respectful towards him. Because even if the meeting you went to wasn't a fun meeting, the next one could be fun, or the one after that could be fun, right? Even if you don't get along with a brother today, you could get along with that brother tomorrow, right? It's not just about you, it's about the effort and the work you put into building something bigger than yourself. That's, I guess, what I'd say. So I'd say for the negatives, don't allow a temporary negative to make you forget about the positives. I mean, what is the ultimate symbol of Freemasonry? I would say it's a stone, or it's stones. Stones exist and survive through the good times and the bad, through the positive and the negative. So think of yourself as a stone, and whatever positive or negative situations you're dealing with, remember those are temporary. They're not forever. The value of Freemasonry far outlasts the negatives. But also be honest about the negatives. Don't pretend, and I think this is one of the biggest mistakes we make within Freemasonry. When a new person wants to join, we tell them it's wonderful and it's great, and you'll never face burnout, you'll never face exhaustion, you'll never have a problem with another brother. That's just not reasonable. Problems exist. No, I mean, I don't know what you mean by that, funny Republican. Do you mean member of this channel or do you mean member of Freemasonry? If I'm a Freemason, I mean, obviously, I'm expected to, even though I'm a Freemason, I'm a citizen first. So as a Freemason, I would be expected to comply with my responsibilities as a citizen. I'd be expected to, obey the laws of my country. If I don't, and if I'm found guilty of a crime, not only can I be, deal with any punishments from Canada, civil or criminal liabilities, I could also be removed from the craft. I have to pay my dues. I have to be respectful to my brothers. Doesn't mean I have to like all my brothers, but I have to be respectful of all my brothers. In terms of being a member of Square and Compass Promotions, this channel, you have to be, if you start to use insulting terms or racial terms or cruel terms on here, or you insult another person in the stream, you will be removed or put in timeout. I welcome different viewpoints. Even if you don't like Freemasonry, you're still welcome to come on and tell me why. And I can at least give you my opinions on why I think Freemasonry makes the world a better place and why even the negative parts of Freemasonry are worth it overall. Because again, even if you have and I've sat through some absolutely horrendous meetings, just brutal meetings. On a Monday, you have a great meeting on a Friday and you have, a wonderful time. So you have to be, and Freemasonry, one of my favorite lessons in Freemasonry is in the first degree and emulation ritual, this idea of not getting too despondent when things go poorly and not getting too, presumptuous when things go well, but recognize and understand that life has a balance. Today today you may be down here, tomorrow you may be up there. Don't allow yourself to become either despondent or presumptuous. Um, I wouldn't say funny Republican. I wouldn't use the term level up per se. We would usually use the term advance within Freemasonry, right? To advance within Freemasonry, if you're talking about advancing within the degrees, it's about the term is proving your proficiency. To prove your proficiency, what you need to do is usually you need to memorize a series of questions and answers. Funny Republican, that's an example of something that might get you removed, telling someone to mind their own business. If it's in the stream, it's everybody's business. That's the nature of being on a stream, right? If you're going to comment on stream and everybody can see it, well, then part of that means everybody gets to comment back on it. I don't think you're trying to be an alpha male funny Republican. I think you're just asking questions in fairness to Michael Moore. Having said that, same reason when I'm on stream, people can, say what they want to say about me. If somebody's on the stream talking about you, that's kind of what happens. So to advance, normally the issue again is your ability to prove your proficiency, as well as, so there's usually a call and response, question and answers, and usually a piece of memorization that you have to do. And it's modeled on the way you would advance as a stonemason, from entered apprentice to fellowcraft stonemason, by proving your proficiency, your ability to work with stone to your master. When I say master, I mean the person who would teach you how to build, right? Not a master in a slave master sense, but master builder, right? Somebody who's mastered the art of Freemasonry or mastered the art of stonemasonry from back in the day. So that is kind of how you advance within Freemasonry. Someone dead, welcome back. Things are going well. How's it going for you? Just a Friday hangout, just chatting about whatever, answering questions, giving my comments and my thoughts. Never been. Maybe I'll get to go there though when I'm in England in about a week and a couple days. Again, very excited. Last time I took a trip overseas, it was to the Philippines, and then to Brazil. And it was a blast. I loved it. Yeah, like a school subject is a way you can consider it. That's not a bad way. I don't think he's trolling, Michael. I've dealt with trolls. I would not consider his stuff trolling. I think you got to be careful with that word. I think trolling has become very overused. People. There was a person on stream a couple days ago who just kept writing "gay" in capitals over and over again on his comments. That's trolling. Or using racist language or sexist language. That stuff is trolling, which I will block people for, or not even block, put them in a timeout. For funny Republican, I don't see trolling. I see a guy asking questions, right? He might be asking them in a sometimes harsh-ish manner, but there's way more non-Masons than Masons. So if we don't find a way to talk to them and encourage them to ask questions, right? When I joined Freemason, there was 45,000. There's currently 28,000 in Ontario. So even if somebody's coming in and asking questions, I'm not going to assume trolling automatically. The other problem, and you see this a lot on YouTube, right, is in real life, if you're talking to somebody, you can sense tone and meaning, and you have an easier time sensing somebody's tone and meaning and whether they're talking in good faith. On YouTube, it's a little bit harder. You can hear my voice, and hopefully I come across as authentic, but when somebody's just writing stuff down, it can be difficult to know if they are sarcastic, not sarcastic. I find as a general rule, you want to give benefit of the doubt. and assume good intentions. One of the best examples of it was, I don't know if you saw um, the Key and Peele skit, where it's Key and Peele and they are texting back and forth, and one dude is just texting and he thinks, and they're both, it's the same conversation, they're texting to each other. He's reading every message as a friendly message, uh, two friends getting together for drinks. The other person is reading every message as though the guy wants to fight him. And so it ends with one guy thinking that he's going to be going to get drinks with his friend, and the other guy getting ready to basically beat the shit out of his friend because they completely misunderstood the basically completely misunderstood the tone of the messages and what was being said in the messages. So on these streams, I tend to give the benefit of the doubt, um, and assume good intentions unless it's obvious otherwise. So I do appreciate the apology, Fighting Republican. It's okay. Again, though, the danger of YouTube is trying to be direct as possible. What can happen in those circumstances is it can read as sarcastic or it can read as argumentative if you're not careful. Did you see that quote, Key and Peele, or not that quote? Sorry, that skit from Key and Peele. If you get the chance to go to YouTube and type in, let me see if I can find it. Hello, Dad. I see ya. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back once again. Key and Peele dinner text. Let me see if that's good. Yes. If you type in Key and Peele when a conversation goes very wrong, which has got 4.9 million views. And I often think about that when I'm here on stream. Whenever I get a message, I'm not even speaking about you, Funny Republican. I believe what's what you're trying to say. In real life, it comes across different than, um, right. But you gotta be, because saying anything, like if I saw you in real life, it means something different sometimes. But I'm assuming, again, what is meant is it's harder to express yourself, and not just express yourself, but express yourself accurately if you're texting. It's harder to get tone of voice and intention. You can't read body language, all that jazz. Hello, Harry or Ken. Hello, Ken. I hope you're doing well. Doubt. Yeah, I don't know. I say doubt the Canadian way. What can I say? Um, but but things do get lost in translation, which can be an issue in Freemasonry. I've known Freemasons to get into fights online and then bring their ill feelings into the Masonic Lodge for the same reason, right? So that is kind of, unfortunately, the nature of online discourse. I check out a YouTube comment section sometime, right? It is full of people having these weird fights, and I think a lot of it with um, starts with not being able to understand not being able to understand tone. Um, what are the altern? Well, I don't know. Funny Republican. I'm not sure necessarily. Well, I don't know how to answer that, because Freemasonry is pretty sui generis, right? It's pretty unique. On the one hand, everything is an alternative to Freemasonry. On the other hand, nothing is, right? I know that didn't make a lot of sense. Like, if you want to join Freemasonry because you want to find social interaction and social support, I mean, the alternative to Freemasonry could be joining a knitting club, joining a sports team, joining, right? Like, there's a million different clubs that you can join to find social support and, to fulfill that human desire to be part of a club. Where the alternative to Freemasonry could be the television. A lot of guys choose to watch TV instead of going to their Masonic meetings, unfortunately, I would say, right? The alternative could be sports. It kind of reminds me of, I'm a fan of professional wrestling. Kind of reminds me how back in the day, um, um, somebody was talking and they were asked the question. They said, do you, within professional wrestling, do you consider mixed martial arts, MMA, or the UFC in particular, competition? And they said, well, everything's competition. The UFC is competition to us. Television shows are competition to us. Um, going to a concert is competition. Sitting on your couch and watching the paint dry is competition. Anything you could be doing instead of attending a wrestling event is competition. So we need to put on the best product we possibly can to attract people to us. And I think the same thing is true with Freemasonry, right? Like anything you could do instead of Freemasonry could be competition. Um, I mean, sure, I think oftentimes if people are looking for a sense of community and support, they'll find it through a church, right? That's very common. Um, and I think that's fine. Look, to a certain extent, Freemasonry is absolutely a personal thing. Like, I've used this example a million times. My favorite song in the world is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. My second favorite song is Prodigal by Blacktop Mojo. My point with that is, like, it's not like this song, there's nothing special about Simple Man, the song. It's a great song, I think. But ultimately, the reason why I love it is unique to me. It speaks to me, right? The song is not special. Rather, it's something special within me that responds to that song. Um, in the same sense, when it comes to Freemasonry, right? Freemasonry is ultimately not special. Rather, it's something about me that's unique that responds to Freemasonry in a certain way. So for me, there would be no alternative to Freemasonry. For other people, if I were to say, your favorite song is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, they would look for an alternative to be their favorite because they're not like me, they're different. They have different tastes, different personalities, different beliefs, different backgrounds, and as a consequence, they will look for an alternative favorite song. So it's think about it like a radio station, right? You're flipping channels, looking um, you're on the radio flipping channels looking for songs. In theory, every radio station is an alternative. But when I come across Simple Man, there is no alternative for me. That's my favorite song because of something about me. There is no alternative radio station in that moment that will make me happy. Other people, they come onto Simple Man, they might have a million alternatives because they might not like that song, right? So, again, in the same token, think about Freemasonry as being on the radio. Some people turn to Freemasonry and there is no alternative for them. It speaks to them and they love it. For other people, they may turn to a different station, turn to a different group to find what they're looking for. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly okay. To someone who says Freemasonry is basically a cult in disguise, my response would be, um, my response would be the the way you would categorize a cult is it has to have, to be a cult member requires unquestioning loyalty and devotion to either an ideology or an individual. Freemasonry does not require that. Freemasonry, in fact, encourages you to vote and to question and to have your own perspective on things. I talk here about my perspective. Other Masons may have a completely different perspective, right? There is no requirement for uniformity of belief either in an individual or in an ideology. Cults separate you from family and outside commitments. Freemasonry encourages you to put your family and other commitments first, especially work commitments, as well as, your personal religious beliefs, which also separates it from being a cult. And Freemasonry is not a cult because it does not enrich any individuals. Usually within a cult, there's at least one or two people getting rich off of it. That's not the case within Freemasonry. All the money goes to support the lodge itself. I've never met anybody who got rich because they were a Freemason or because they were a worshipful master, if that makes sense as well. So that is what I would say. Roast turkey with gravy for a home Thanksgiving. Um, well, I mean, the opinion persists for a lot of different reasons. Part of it is people feel it gives people who are anti-Masonic a good feeling to have that idea. Because especially if you're struggling in your life, right? And I know this can come across sounding a little bit condescending to people who have these misconceptions. I don't mean to necessarily, but I think it's true that if you are struggling in your life with a challenge, with a problem, could be anything. You're struggling economically, you're struggling with family, you might want to look for a boogeyman that you can blame it upon. Um, and if you're looking for a boogeyman, um, Freemasonry can be a good one, right? If you've ever seen this movie called Bug, B-U-G, it's a great example of that. People struggling in life and then looking for someone to blame. And Freemasonry, it's fun to use them to blame for the problems in one's life. That's often what you see with conspiracy theories. Um, so that's part of it. Freemasonry itself, though, we did not do ourselves any favors, unfortunately. As much as we may like to think otherwise. Yeah, the elites, right? In the 60s and 70s, we and Freemasonry chose to kind of push back, not be public, to be more private, to be more esoteric, and that only fed into conspiracy theories. And there was good reason, especially in Europe, right? World War II, the Nazis targeted Freemasons. Hitler targeted Freemasons. As a consequence, though, after it was finished, Freemasons in many countries felt nervous about being public with them, their ideas, their beliefs, and as a consequence of that, they pushed back against. They decided to be more quiet and private, and then that just fed into certain conspiracy theories because it's like, if they had nothing to hide, why would they be hiding? And they weren't hiding, they were just being more private because they had just been targeted. So you have to keep that in mind as well. I get those are the reasons. Thank you, Brother Courtney. That's very kind of you. And thank you, everybody who is here. I hope you're all having a great day. I'm going to be ending this stream soon. If I'm someone in a small town in Nebraska, I'm 35. Um, I don't know, funny Republican. I wouldn't think about it in terms of benefit to you. I think that's the wrong reason to join anything. I think the reason to join is so you can be of benefit to it, not receive benefit. Um, so I would say certainly you will have the benefit of being in a privileged position to help your small town and help your Masonic brethren, and help your community. And joining would be great for that. Beyond that, I mean, I can say saying that is kind of like, to me, it would be saying, if I listen to this song, will it be my favorite song? I'd be like, you have to listen to it. I mean, you will. Well, you could though, right? You could help people. When I say help, I don't just mean financially help. By joining a Masonic lodge, you now are become a brother to, let's say there's 50 people in your Masonic lodge. You now become a brother to 50 people. And because you're a brother to 50 people, you can be there for them if they're struggling. They can call you and ask if they can go out for coffee. Um, if they, need somebody to talk to, you can assist at the lodge by setting up the lodge, tearing down the lodge. Um, you can, um, you can help with refreshments. You can help run the lodge. You can help organize events for the community. You can organize a food drive for the community. How far will they go if I'm struggling? Well, they should go as far as they're capable of going. The problem is I wouldn't know how capable they are, right? So, like I said, let's say you join a lodge and there's, let's not say 50, let's say 20 people in the lodge and it has very little money. They may not be able to help you financially, but they should be able to take you out for coffee and talk to you. And if you're struggling, answer the call, um, to see how you're doing. Again, it's one of those things where, is it possible that you're in a situation where every single brother is working and tired and can't reach out to you? That's possible, but that shouldn't be the case. You would hope that everybody would, at least somebody would find the time to talk to you. That's why I always suggest we as Freemasons should know within our communities, we should know, like we should know, for example, the phone number to call if someone is struggling with thoughts of self-harm or killing themselves, right? That number, by the way, in Canada is 988. It's completely free, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So let's say a brother calls me and says, I'm thinking of killing myself, right? Um, and let's say, unfortunately, I just can't talk to him. Who knows why? I don't know. Maybe I'm dealing with a personal crisis at the moment. I just can't do it. Um, I can still at least say to him, call 988. That's the number you need to call. And then set a time to talk to him later, right? Um, it's why also I think every Freemason should have a list of all the brethren in his lodge that have spare bedrooms and that have, a spare couch. So if a brother calls and says, my house just burned down, I have nowhere to go, nowhere to live, um, which brothers have rooms that are available that can handle a brother visiting, or sorry, brother without a home, and also know which of those spare rooms are accessible. So I'm in a wheelchair, for example. Um, if I, heaven forbid, knock on wood, there's a fire in my apartment and I need a place to stay, I call a brother, say I need a place to stay, and he sends me to a brother's house that's up 10 flights of stairs. That's not, an apartment complex. That's not that helpful, right? So know who's available with what resources. You should know food bank availability. So again, a brother is struggling, food bank, and know who is in your, like, know like the local food banks in your area, right? So again, a brother calls you, he doesn't have any food, you can't talk to him at the moment for whatever reason, you can at least know where you can go to get support. That's part of psychological, um, first aid, right? I don't know anything about Scientology, so I don't think so, Funny Republican. From what I know about it, the little I know about it, that's not the case. Well, but I think Michael Moore, you're correct, but I think the question of ability, I think we in Freemasonry can do things to extend our ability, right? To help. So again, that's why it's important, I think, that we as Freemasons know the number to call in case someone's considering self-harm. Again, 988. That way, we've extended our ability to help because now we have one more resource. That's why I think it's important we have first aid um, training, like psychological first aid and actual like CPR, proper first aid, because that extends our ability to help because now if somebody's physically unwell, we can help them through first aid. That's why I think it's important we know food bank locations, having a list of brethren with spare bedrooms, having the knowledge of how benevolence works. All of that stuff extends our ability to help our brethren, which is why I think we should have those things. But it's not a religion, right? Freemasonry is not a religion, Funny Republican. It's a social group. I mean, if you want, I mean, to me, I understand what you're trying to say, Funny Republican, but to me, if you're not worshiping something, you're not really a religion, right? If that makes sense. Um, the best way to think of it is a social club or a civic organization. Um, Many social groups have rituals. The Future Farmers of America have rituals, right? Ritual, really, the purpose of ritual is ultimately to preserve the bonds of brotherhood through shared experiences. So, Funny Republican, as Michael Moore was saying, um, yes, Freemasonry has dues to join. Usually, this is my experience. Usually it costs between $100 and $200 per year to be a Mason in dues. And usually the initiation fee is between 300 and 500. So it's a one-time payment of between 3 and 500 for the first year you join, and then approximately $100 to $200 per year after that. It can be more, it can be less. And as Michael Moore said, those costs go into maintaining a lodge. However, again, the benefit of that is, you do get to be part of the group. You get to put yourself in a position to help others. And in theory, if you ever found yourself needing benevolence and assistance, so like let's say, you did need money to pay your rent because you lose your job, um, there's at least a benevolence fund that you can contact. So the money goes to the local lodge. One of the biggest misconceptions within Freemasonry, Funny Republican, is this, and I'm not saying you have this, I'm just saying in general, is this idea that there's like a single global Masonic entity, and when you pay your dues, all the money um, goes to this like one global body, which is not the case. The money basically stays local. So I'll give you a rough breakdown of how my dues worked. When I paid my dues yearly to my Masonic body, about 60% of it went to costs associated with running the building. That was the most, that was where the lion's share of the money went. So it gets paid to the treasurer, it gets put into the account. 60% of it goes to maintaining the building in which we run. You could call it, if you wanted, kind of rent, but it's not really rent, it's more an assessment. Because it's like a co-op where we're part owners of the building. You can look at it that way. But 60% of it went to cover the cost of the building. 10% of it went to cover the costs associated with our jurisdiction, which is in Ontario. Um, 10% of it went to our district, which is it holds events for Masons within Southern Ontario, basically Essex County. And the rest, the remaining 20%, went to the costs associated with the lodge, primarily special events and refreshments and dinner. So Freemasonry is not centralized. Freemasonry is jurisdictional. You're absolutely right. That is one of the biggest challenges we are facing right now in Freemasonry. The idea of branching, right? I think what you mean by branching, we would call that in Freemasonry the idea of what would be called as clandestine lodges oftentimes. It's the idea of people going around and saying, I'm going to start Cameron's Masonic Lodge and just start a Masonic body in my garage and charge people $500 to be a member of it and make up my own rituals, etc., right? Is a big issue in Freemasonry. The way it's dealt with is through regularity and recognition. So, for example, Ontario, every year, Ontario Grand Lodge, which is the recognized Masonic body in Ontario, sends a list to every lodge, and that list records every Grand Lodge around the world, every jurisdiction around the world, which has recognition with Ontario. So, for example, if I go to Texas and I go to visit a lodge, I ask, which lodge are you associated with? They will tell me Grand Lodge of Texas. I check my list. They are recognized. They are regular. I can sit in their lodge. If I go to somebody's house and they've got a square and compass over their door and they say we're part of the Grand Lodge of the Lone Star State of the Republic of Texas, I check my list. They are not recognized. I cannot attend their lodge or sit with them. I can talk to them. I can say hello, but I can't be part of their lodge or sit in their lodge because they're not recognized. Every jurisdiction decides for itself which Masonic Grand Lodges it will or will not recognize. It gets advice every year from a committee called the Committee of Recognition, and it has certain criteria, and it will, based on those criteria, recommend which jurisdictions it considers to be regular, which ones it considers to be irregular. However, that's just a recommendation. At the end of the day, the decision of whom to and not to recognize is made by your Grand Lodge. So every year, Ontario sets up its list, sends it out, and that is a list I must follow. Now, it's possible the list changes. So every year by year, you may have a Mason, I may get super cranky and I may get super duper cranky about Freemasonry, decide I hate the leadership, whatever it is, start my own Masonic group called Cameron's, Masonic Order and practice Freemasonry the right way. Cameron's Masonic Lodge would be unrecognized. I could not then visit any lodges anywhere, basically. However, it's possible if I grow to a big enough size and get enough people joining, who knows? Maybe one day it would be recognized. But the problem with doing that is you're basically cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're not actually helping anything. You're just splitting up Freemasonry even more. But in theory, that could happen. That has happened in the past. Right? That has happened in the past where groups have branched off, started out clandestine, and then grew popular enough that you kind of had no choice but to recognize them in a lot of jurisdictions. So it's when you say Pope controls the church, it'd be more like if you had a series of popes controlling different churches around the world, and there's no head pope. So there's a series of Grand Lodges controlling lodges within jurisdictions. So in Ontario, we have the Grand Master of Ontario. He controls Freemasonry in Ontario, not outside of it. He sets a rule that's exclusive for Ontario. Then you have another Grand Master in Manitoba. You have another Grand Master in Texas, another one in Washington State, another one in Washington, D.C. In the States, there's 51 Grand Lodges, one for each state, plus Washington, D.C., as well as 40 Prince Hall Grand Lodges, if I recall correctly. In Canada, it's about 10. Um, you could look at it like that. So don't think about it as like a singular pope controlling a church. Think about it as a series, and the Catholics will hate this, but a series of popes controlling different jurisdictions. Sometimes it goes by province, sometimes by state, sometimes by countries. Um, the person who controls the main lodge, I wouldn't use the term control. I would use the term represent or even lead. Because it's kind of like even the president doesn't control America, right? The president represents America, but it's controlled by different branches who have different responsibilities. Most grand lodges are the same. They have a grand master who represents it and has a level of control. However, he works within a system of other officers and committees that all make decisions. So ultimately, um, when it comes to whom controls Freemasonry, it's better in an individual jurisdiction. Don't think of it as an individual. The Grand Master would be the representation, but think of it as an organization called a Grand Lodge, represented by the Grand Master, is the best way to think of it. And it's an election. So every couple years, or every year, there's a series of elections and different officers are selected who have different roles. You could argue, honestly, that's one of the biggest problems within Freemasonry is in many jurisdictions, you're voting on new Grand Masters every year. It's very hard to accomplish anything long-lasting in 1 year. I think we'd be better off to have 5-year terms for Grand Masters, personally. Maybe, funny Republican, you would have to, I mean, it's possible, but you'd have to know somebody in Moscow or in Russia. You'd have to know a Mason in Russia. You'd have to know them, and have their contact info. And they would have to have the ability to do so as well, right? And the ability to do so without, because we within Freemasonry are, you know, expected to comply with the rules of the government and the rules of the countries in which we're located. So I would not ever want to hear of, let's say, a Russian Freemason giving preferential treatment necessarily to like moving somebody's application to the front of the pack or anything like that. I wouldn't think that would be right. However, I've heard of, and I think it's perfectly not just acceptable but excellent. I call up, let's say I know a brother in Russia. I want to apply for a work permit or a visa there. I know he works in the government. I call him up and he walks me through the process and tells me, this is the process, these are the forms, this is how long it takes, this is how to do it correctly, this is how to do it, this is mistakes people make. And then, help me, teach me kind of the right way to go about things. And I've known, Masons who've done that, who have different types of jobs where somebody's looking to learn more about it or work within it. He walks through the process, teaches them the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it. I think that's the right way to be. So when you say, will they accept anybody? Some would argue that we do, and that's a problem. This whole idea of guarding the West Gate. Getting paid is the least important part of it. Or sorry, paying is the least important part of it. A lot of times lodges will waive an initiation fee if they can, if they think the brother meets the other requirements, and will be able to pay in future. They can't waive it forever for obvious reasons, but it happens. You have to be of the correct age. In most places in the States, you have to be at least 18 years of age. In Canada, it's 21. But you have to be of the correct age. You have to believe in a supreme being. That supreme being is up to you. And to join the fraternal side, you have to be a man, right? Then Different lodges will have different things they'll check for. As a general rule, you have to be of good moral character. If they find out that you've been committing, all sorts of heinous crimes in the community, they're probably not going to accept you. However, if let's say you committed crimes in the past and you went to jail, but you've since turned your life around, learned from your mistakes, in those circumstances, I always tell people, because a lot of people have the misconception you can't join with a criminal record. I always tell people, look, join, be on, or don't join, apply, be honest about your criminal record and what happened and how you've changed your life, and let the lodge decide. Um, and then get um, you know get to know the brethren. When you're joining a lodge, don't even think about joining. um, Funny Republican, once again, no sarcasm. We just talked about this. Let's not be sarcastic on the stream, all right? That's how people get removed from the stream. Um, uh, because, I thought what Michael Moore said there was pretty funny, actually. You could create the Funny Republican Society. It would be cheaper, and it would be a lot less steps. It is not easy to overthrow a lodge. It's actually really, really hard to overthrow a lodge. It's almost impossible. Like, I wouldn't even know what overthrow a lodge means. Like, there's nothing, like, there's nothing to overthrow. Like, I'm trying to think of the context of it, because, like, welcome back, Willow Wise. Because, like, what would it mean to even overthrow a Masonic lodge? I don't like. I suppose what it would mean is you join, you pay the money to join, and you pay your yearly dues. You become a, but like, what would you overthrow? Like, what would that mean? So let's say you join a lodge of 50 members. You pay the money and take the time to become an entered apprentice, then a fellow craft, then a master mason. Then you join the officer lineup, and a few more years you become a worshipful master. And let's say you do, even though you're not supposed to, you do bribe everybody in the lodge to vote for you. You're now the worshipful master. Like, what then are you doing? Well, no, we're not susceptible to, like, I guess I don't understand what it would look like, what it would mean. Are you saying you would create a little Masonic army? Best of luck to you. Most of us are 90 years old. We're not exactly out there, um, throwing down. Are you saying you would pay people with your $50 million to, I mean, you could, in theory, I suppose, try to bribe over half of your membership to start a separate group called, called the Funny Republican Group, and create your own Masonic order, and hope that over time you become big enough and have enough members that you get recognized. But I don't know what a Masonic overthrow would look like. The closest I can imagine is you have ideas about Freemasonry that are not popular. Over time, you convince enough people that your ideas are correct, and you get voted in, and you implement those ideas, and in the process, um, you get kicked out of Freemasonry, or your lodge gets kicked out of Freemasonry. You're making a lot of steps, Funny Republican. Michael Moore is correct. Michael Moore is correct about a lot of things. He's a good Mason, but Michael Moore is correct. You'd be better off starting your own group called the Funny Republican Group. If you had $50 million, and you want to start your own organization, you should just start your own organization. Don't go through all the time and effort and hassle of joining Freemasonry. Um, um, can it? Well, I mean, it depends where you live. In Michigan, if I recall correctly, you need to be 18 years of age or older to join. Um, in in Canada, it's 21 years of age. So it depends on the jurisdiction. I think in a lot of emulation jurisdictions, it's 21 years of age. I would prefer 18. I think 18 makes a lot more sense. Well, I mean, I took that to be metaphorical. I mean, we will. I mean, the Freemason concept ultimately, it's the same concept, in my opinion, um, that enlivens any group. It's the concept of brotherhood, brotherly love, wanting to be part of a group. It's human nature. Why do kids create clubhouses and tree forts and invite their friends and call it, Cameron's Clubhouse? We want to be part of something. That's what the spirit of Freemasonry is. You can find that spirit in many other groups and organizations, in every other group and organization, right? The difference is within Freemasonry, you fulfill that spirit and that desire through um, rituals that relate to stonemasonry, right? And history, and historical understandings and fraternity, right? The No Homers Club, right? It's kind of like we as human beings have an innate spirit uh, as it relates to loving music. All human beings, I think, love music, but we don't all love the same types. So I fulfill my love of music by listening to Simple Man. You may fulfill it by listening to, I think it was Amati, you said was your favorite musician. Within Freemasonry, if you want to experience feelings of fulfill your desire for brotherhood, and you enjoy history, you enjoy philosophy, you enjoy public speaking, and you want to help make the world a better place, join Freemasonry, right? If you enjoy other things, if you enjoy, let's say, teamwork, sport, physical fitness, you may choose to fulfill your desire for brotherhood through joining a football club, joining a football team. Well, I mean, I would hope that in general, all Freemasons are loyal. I would hope people are loyal, right? I think what makes Freemasons loyal is a sense of brotherhood. There's oaths that you take. People break oaths all the time, but within Freemasonry, one of the reasons you have to believe in a supreme being is because when you take an obligation, you take it on your volume of the sacred law that speaks to your heart. It's kind of like what's to stop somebody from lying in court? Well, they swear on a holy book, right? They swear on a Bible, and that's meant to teach their consciousness, to instruct their conscience. Um, well, so I'd say the values, and everybody will have slightly different views on what the values of Freemasonry are. The simplest answer is brotherly love, relief, and truth. I would say, more in general, the values that animate Freemasonry would be a belief that the whole can do more than the part, that a group can do more for the world than an individual. I would say definitely there's a belief in brotherly love. Um, I would say there's a value, most Freemasons would have a value of history, would value democracy and democratic institutions, and would value um, patience and perseverance. I would say those are some of the values you will see specific to Freemasonry. And again, if I were to use football as an example, if American football or any team sport, right? There are certain values that exist within team sports: teamwork, physical fitness, practice, dedication, that you see in team sports. Again, within Freemasonry, I would say the values that exist universally within Freemasonry would be they value brotherhood, they value the idea that a group can accomplish more than an individual, they value religious tolerance, political tolerance, I'd say tolerance in general, to be honest, um, and they value history. And they value the idea that good things take time and perseverance is necessary, because you know and tradition, they probably have a strong value for tradition. But then within each lodge they will have specific values that are unique to each lodge. Some lodges tend to value charity more than others and put more of an emphasis on charity. Some lodges will value social events and they'll put more of an emphasis on holding a lot of social events. Some education. There are some lodges that were designed specifically for um, educational purposes. Like their entire purpose was they created a lodge, and every meeting, the different brother presents, has a paper and presents on some topic of Masonic history or Masonic education. So there can be lodge specific values as well. Brotherly love, relief. I mean, what holds any uh, group together, right? For any Republican, I mean, ultimately, it's because you like to. You don't even have to like. Ultimately, it's because you respect the brethren that you're with and you care for them. You don't even have to like them, to be honest. There are plenty of Masons I don't like, but I try to respect all of them. And what holds me together with them is the fact that they're my brother and I respect them. I mean, what keeps anybody together? What keeps any group of friends or brothers together? It's mutual respect and a belief in things like brotherly love. Fraternity, sure. No, Illuminati is not the highest level. Illuminati started after Freemasonry, right? Illuminati started 1777 by actually a former Freemason who did not like, he grew disillusioned with Freemasonry for a few different reasons. He thought it was too expensive and he thought it was not esoteric enough, which happens. People can choose, just like people can leave a football team because they don't like the coach or they don't like a certain aspect of it. They can leave Freemasonry. So he started the Illuminati in 1777. Didn't, ultimately, though, it wasn't successful. I mean, I think by 1910 it had died out completely. Because basically what he did is he created a cheaper version of Freemasonry that was more private, which, as I've said, is the opposite approach to take. I don't see any evidence that increasing the privacy of Freemasonry, either its rituals or its identity, has been of any benefit at any point in history. Freemasonry is the strongest when it is well known and relevant to the communities in which it's located. So yeah, the highest level within Freemasonry, within the lodge, you could argue it's third degree Master Mason. I would say it is the Worshipful Master, or even you could argue the Installing Master is the highest rank within Freemasonry. Highest level, certainly within the lodge. This has been a very fun stream. However, I think I'm going to end this one. Thank you, everybody, for joining, though. I really appreciate it. It's not too late to hit that like button and subscribe button. Thank you, Funny Republican, for your being here. Michael Moore, Brother Courtney, Rondo, I appreciate all of you guys being here. Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it promoted per se. Advanced would be the word. I mean, it's just about the proficiency that you show, right? It's just about if you demonstrated to the lodge membership that you are proficient in the craft, that you're proficient, that you know what's going on within a lodge. If you can do that, then you are going to be advanced. Your brethren will advance you, they'll vote for you, and you'll kind of go from there. So yeah, thank you guys so much once again for being here. I hope you're all doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and I hope you all have an excellent day. You can ride them both. Why not? Live your life on the edge. All right, see you guys later. Thank you, Rondo. Enjoy your weekend also.